Hello, my name is Alexis Maurice B. Tanhueco, and this is Group 8's info video. First, let us start with Jarod.
Hello, my name is Jarod and I'm here to explain about the sedimentary cycle and the phosphorus cycle. Sedimentary cycles are generally described as a type of biogeochemical cycle, wherein its reservoir is the Earth's crust. They involve certain earth-bound elements such as iron, calcium, phosphorus, and more. Sedimentary cycle is a cycle that comprises the weathering of an existing rock, followed by the erosion of minerals and their transport, deposition, and then burial. An example of this cycle all depends on the kinds of weather. Existing rocks can be broken down into small pieces, or sediments in a process called weathering. And there are three main types of weathering. The first is physical weathering. Physical weathering is caused by temperature changes. For example, when it rains, the water gets into the cracks of the rocks. When the water freezes, it expands and forces the rocks apart. This happens many times, eventually breaking the rock. The second is chemical weathering. An example of chemical weathering is when acid rain reacts with substance in rocks. The third is biological weathering. The sediments formed by weathering can be moved away by water, wind, or by gravity. This is called erosion. Eventually, sediments may end up all in one place. For example, the bottom of the sea. This process is called deposition. More layers of sediment are deposited on top. Over the years, the weight of the layers above compress the ones below and they harden into sedimentary rocks in a process called compaction. Along with the water cycle, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, the phosphorus cycle is another biogeochemical cycle that is essential for life on Earth. Although phosphorus is not found in the atmosphere, it still plays a very important role in plants and animals on Earth. Phosphorus is, phosphorus is essential for plant and animal growth, as well as health for microbes inhabiting the soil. The phosphorus cycle is a slow process and this involves four key steps. These four key steps are weathering, absorption, decomposition, and sediments. Step 1. Weathering. Phosphorus is found in rocks. Weathering along with weathering along with rain breaks down the phosphorus in rocks and it travels to the soil and into the water sources. Step 2 is absorption. Absorption by plants and animals. Once in the soil, plants, fungi, and microorganisms are able to absorb phosphorus and then grow. Some of it also makes its way into the ocean and fresh water, and animals are able to drink this water and absorb the phosphorus. Plants absorb the water along with the phosphorus, and then the animals eat the plants, then the phosphorus moves into the plants. Step 3. Returning to the environment by decomposition. Animals excrete waste decomposers that are able to use phosphorus in the waste material. Furthermore, when the plants and animals die, the bacteria convert the organic phosphorus into or inorganic phosphorus in a process called mineralization. Step 4. Sediments to rocks. Some of the phosphorus gets buried in the sediments, which over time becomes rock. And then the cycle continues. Some of the phosphorus in the soil gets washed in the ocean where a similar process takes place.
Now, let's have Lex Suelto.
Invasive species, as described by the National Wildlife Federation, are living organisms that are not native to an ecosystem. They cause harm to said ecosystems and the species that reside in it. An example of these are algae, specifically macroalgae, which are initially introduced species, but while they are contributing a major role to aquatic ecosystems, they also may be considered invasive when growing in excessive amounts that can endanger aquatic life by reducing the amount of oxygen gained by marine species. Humans influence the rapid production of algae, especially in freshwater bodies, through phosphorus and nitrate-rich fertilizers, where the runoff from the soil heads to rivers and lakes, thus increasing the rate of algae production. This process is known as eutrophication, where these phosphorus and nitrate-rich soils influencing the fresh waters lead to algal blooms, inducing significant damage to the aquatic environment, such as reducing the amount of available oxygen in the body of water, or worse, by spiking the population of harmful algae such as cyanobacteria, leading to possible diseases to other marine organisms and leading to circumstances such as fish kills.
Epigenetics. It is a study of how one's behavior and surroundings may affect the workings of one's genes. It is the study of how cells influence the function of the gene without altering the DNA sequence. The DNA alterations regulating whether or not genes are on or off are epigenetic changes. These changes are connected to the DNA and do not alter the building blocks of the DNA sequence. In the whole set of the DNA in a cell, all of the modifications controlling gene activity are known as an epigenome. Epigenetic alterations assist to identify if genes are activated or disabled and affect the protein synthesis in cells. It helps to ensure that every cell only generates proteins needed for its activity. Proteins that promote bone development in muscle cells, for example, are not generated. Epigenetic patterns vary across people in various tissues with an individual and even between various cells of a tissue. The epigenome can be affected by environmental impacts such as a person's nutrition and pollution exposure. The division of cells from cell to cell is possible to preserve epigenetic changes and in circumstances can be inherited through generations. The reason epigenetics is related to this is that the rising eutrophication rates are causing shellfish and seafood to be intoxicated and may reach hazardous levels for both humans and animals, which is how it contributes to the interaction between humans and algae. Marine sediments contain an extensive quantity of microbial biomass on Earth, but little is known about the way cells exist in this slow growth, low energy environment. Cells in marine sediments require extra genetic control mechanisms, such as an example of epigenetics, DNA methylation. Thank you for listening.